I still remember the sharp snap of the lock giving way, the metal clattering against my garage floor. Karen stood there, bolt cutters in hand, smug as if she'd just won a prize at a county fair. She didn't know the prize was my undercover police task force Jeep. I was halfway across the street when I heard her bark, "This is HO property now." My stomach dropped. Before we continue, please drop a like and comment below with your country and what time it is right now where you're watching. Whether it's sunrise in Australia, midnight in New York, afternoon in Canada, or evening in France, I want to know. Don't just sit back, tell me where in the world you are. Now, let's dive into the story. That Jeep wasn't just any vehicle, it had gear inside worth more than my house back then. Worse, it was tied to a sting operation the following night. She yanked the garage door higher, light flooding over the Jeep's olive drab paint. "Violates community standards," she spat. The arrogance in her tone made my blood boil. She had no clue she was tampering with federal property. One wrong move and she could be in prison before dinner. I shouted her name, but she ignored me, climbed into the driver's seat, and turned the key. The engine roared, that deep, powerful growl reserved for military conversions. She thought she was scaring me. All she did was dig herself deeper into trouble. As she backed out, I saw my lock on the ground, the shackle twisted. My heart pounded, not from fear for me, but for her. The task force wouldn't treat this as a petty neighborhood dispute. This was about to become a federal case. Before I could run over, my old police instincts kicked in. I stepped back into the shadows. Sometimes, you have to let a fool write their own ending. Karen was writing hers with every turn of that Jeep's tires. And I knew, this was only the beginning. It started 2 months before, when I moved into Willow Pines Estates. I'd retired from the force years back, bought the quiet little house with a double garage. I kept my Jeep there, a relic from my days in a special operations unit. It wasn't flashy, just built for purpose. Karen introduced herself the first week, smiling too wide. She was the HOA president, self-appointed enforcer of neighborhood beauty. She eyed the Jeep like it was a rusted lawn ornament. "We like our vehicles community-friendly," she said. I laughed it off then. Big mistake. The Jeep wasn't for show, it was still part of a Federal Reserve fleet for emergencies. I did contract work with the task force sometimes, mostly surveillance and transport. It sat quietly in my garage, never blocking driveways, never leaking oil. But Karen needed a villain, and I was handy. Her letters started polite, concerned about property values. Then they turned hostile. "You are in violation of community bylaws, Article 9, Section 3. I wrote back, stating federal exemption for law enforcement property. She ignored that. She wanted a win, and I was her chosen battle. Neighbors warned me, Karen doesn't back down. She once fined a guy for painting his shutters off-white instead of eggshell. She had friends on the HOA board who'd rubber stamp anything she proposed. But this time, she'd bitten into something far bigger than she could chew. I thought maybe she'd cool off. But instead, she started watching my garage. It became a pattern. I'd see her curtain shift when I stepped outside. She'd walk her dog past my driveway 3-4 times a day. Once, I caught her snapping pictures of the Jeep when I had the garage open for air. I asked her to stop. She smirked. One Friday, I heard scraping sounds outside at 10 p.m. I opened my blinds. There she was, flashlight in hand, staring through the garage windows. My gut told me she was building a case, twisting the truth into whatever would suit her. The next HOA meeting turned into a circus. Karen stood up and presented her evidence, photos, made-up complaints, claims that my Jeep posed a security threat. I calmly explained its federal connection. She laughed and called it a convenient story. The board voted 3-2 to enforce removal. I told her plainly in front of everyone, "Karen, if you touch that Jeep, you're touching federal property. That's a felony." She rolled her eyes. Some folks chuckled, thinking it was an exaggeration. But the truth doesn't need an audience, it just needs time. After that night, she doubled her efforts. Letters in my mailbox. Notes on my door. Neighbors whispered about her obsession. and I could feel the tension building like a storm behind closed doors. The storm broke on a Tuesday morning with the sound of bolt cutters. She timed it for when most folks were at work. But I was home, repairing an old fishing reel. The sound of metal snapping was so out of place in the morning quiet, it sent a jolt through me. I set the reel down, walked to the window, and there she was. Karen was in workout gear, sweating as she hauled the garage door open. My heart sank when I saw the Jeep's shadow move. She actually climbed in, adjusting the seat like she owned it. That's when I knew this wasn't just HOA pettiness. This was theft. I could have stopped her. My knees may be old, but they still work. But my years on the force taught me something important. Sometimes you need to let the suspect dig deep enough that they can't crawl out. She was about to make that hole real deep. I stepped outside, keeping my distance, my phone already recording. "Karen!" I barked. She didn't even look at me. She revved the engine, tires crunching on my driveway. My gut tightened. That Jeep wasn't just valuable, it had surveillance logs in the glove box. She drove it away like it was hers. My fingers clenched around my phone. I had the proof now, and the contacts to make sure she felt every ounce of consequence coming her way. I dialed a number I hadn't used in years. Special Agent Nora Vexler picked up on the second ring. My voice shook. "The Jeep is gone. HOA president cut my lock and drove it out." The line went quiet. I heard only breathing, and my old shame rising. Nora spoke like a metronome. "Unit 7 has an active tracker and active case file. Do not pursue. Do not confront. We're en route." I stared at the empty rectangle in my garage, dust and sunlight where duty once lived. I felt 80 and 20 at the same time. Across the street, curtains moved like nervous lips. Neighbors knew drama. They didn't know danger. The glove box held surveillance notes from a counterfeit ring. Drop spots. If Karen opened it, she'd be swimming in sharks. If the sharks smelled blood, they'd swim here. I called my sister, Maris. We hadn't talked much since Dad's will. Old wounds ache in new weather. She answered anyway. "You okay, Oren?" Her voice was soft and careful, like she was holding a porcelain cup. "Not yet," I said. "But you always liked storms. I might need you." Maris drove over from Thin Ridge, hummingbird fast. She brought coffee in a chipped blue thermos, the one from Mom's church kitchen. She looked at the broken lock, then at me. "You warned her?" I nodded. She sighed. "Then you let her choose the fall. That's on her." Sirens grew thin in the distance, stretched like thread over our roofs. Karen's friends gathered by the mailbox arches of Willow Pines Estates, whispering and pretending they weren't. I felt the old training crawl up my spine. Count faces. Count exits. Count lies before their owners speak. Agent cars flowed in without drama, like a dark river moving under ice. Nora stepped out, tall and quiet, windbreaker zipped to her throat. "Where's her house?" she asked. I pointed down Hickory Vale Court, the one with the red azalea hedge shaped like a crown. Fitting, I thought. Maris put a hand on my elbow. "You're shaking." I lied and said it was the coffee. Truth was, my mind was flipping pages I couldn't close. The cases, the partners, the nights I told myself I'd come home whole. Retirement never fixed that. But today might mean something else. Nora's team fanned out. One agent peeled off, returned with bolt cutters bagged and tagged. Another found Karen's EWA badge dropped near my gutter, cracked plastic and smug letters. Evidence builds like rain, small drops becoming puddles, puddles becoming flood. I watched the flood form at my feet. A radio squawked. Tracker shows movement. The Jeep's parked at Karen's driveway. Interior light on. Nora looked at me. "Stay back. You're a witness, not a hero." I nodded, but my heart took one step forward anyway, right as a scream cut the morning in half. The scream came from Karen's garage. We hurried down Hickory Vale Court. Karen's garage yawned open like a mouth that forgot how to close. The Jeep sat inside, a king on cinder blocks, tires still warm. The glove box hung open. Papers scattered like white birds trying to lift off from a tar pit. Karen stood there, frozen, one hand on a folder, the other on her phone. She looked like a kid caught stealing communion bread. Nora stepped between us. "Ma'am, put the papers down." Karen blinked slowly, as if time were syrup. "These are community documents," she said. "They're for property compliance." Nora didn't blink at all. "Those are federal documents tied to an active investigation. Step away." Karen's face broke into little pieces: shock, calculation, pride, fear, like stained glass under a boot. She put the folder down. Not gently. Nora nodded to two agents. They moved with practiced kindness and cuffs. Neighbors gathered in a neat semicircle, perfect for watching a life bend. A board member named Ephra Lowell whispered, "Do we still have the meeting tonight?" Maris turned on him. "Read the room, Ephra." He swallowed the rest of his sentence with a paper-dry mouth and stared at his shoes. I saw a crumpled letter on the floor, one of mine, stamped received and ignored. I remembered every warning I wrote. I remembered signing my name like a promise. My hands stayed by my sides. Good hands know when to do nothing. Even better hands know when to witness. Nora bent over the glove box. "Unopened seals," she said. Relief slid through me like a slow tide. She held up a micro-recorder. "She didn't break it." Karen huffed. "I was cataloging. For aesthetics." Nora almost smiled. "Aesthetics won't argue for you in court." Karen's mouth turned to wire. A tow truck groaned into the driveway, requested by dispatch. The driver read the scene fast and lifted the Jeep with the care of someone cradling a sleeping child. I looked away. You can love a tool. You just shouldn't admit it out loud. Grief is quieter than engines. Ephra cleared his throat. "But the bylaws," he began, voice thin as a fishing line. Nora faced him. "Bylaws don't beat federal law." He nodded like a bobblehead, then drifted backward, suddenly fascinated by the shape of clouds. "People always study the sky when the ground scares them." Maris squeezed my shoulder. "You did right, big brother." We had not said those words since we were 12 and 10, standing at a creek with our father's pocket knife and a dare. The old wound softened. The morning felt less sharp. Then an agent walked over, eyes solemn, holding a notice. "Mr. Orrin Greer," he said. "You're needed for a recorded statement at headquarters today." My stomach dropped. "Am I in trouble?" He shook his head. "No, sir. But something in those papers names you." Nora added softly, "We'll explain on the way." Something in the case file had my name on it. Headquarters smelled like copier ink and old coffee, a scent that makes time both fast and slow. Nora led me to an interview room that remembered every story it ever heard. Maris stayed in the lobby, hands folded like a small prayer, eyes tracking every door that sighed open. A recorder blinked red. Nora slid a page across the table. "This is from last week's surveillance. The counterfeit ring flagged your address." My skin cooled. "Why?" She tapped the margin. "Because someone emailed them a photo of your Jeep." She turned the page. "The sender's handle, /_/_." My jaw tightened. Karen had fed wolves. Nora continued, voice even. "They thought you were a rival mover. Counterfeiters don't like rival movers." She slid another sheet. "They plan to neutralize the asset." "That means your garage, Mr. Greer." I pictured gasoline, a match, and my quiet house as kindling. I swallowed anger like a dry pill. "Can we nail her for that?" Nora nodded. "We can try." She clicked a pen but didn't write. "There's more. The board scheduled a vote to authorize removal by any means if you refused." She looked up. "Any means is a bad phrase in court." Maris texted me, "I'm here. Breathing. Also furious. I smiled despite everything. Family is a bridge you forgot you built, and suddenly you're walking on it during a flood." I sent a heart emoji. Old men can learn new buttons. Nora noticed. Her mouth eased. "You've got good backup," she said. We took a break for water. I stared at the scratched tabletop. Each mark told of fists that didn't fall, lies that did. Nora returned with a folder. "We have the bolt cutters, the video, the glove box, the email line. We also have this." She unfolded a single check. It was a cashier's check from Karen, made out to Community Compliance Fund for $50,000, dated next week. She was planning to cover out-of-pocket penalties with HOA reserves, then repay from member assessments, Nora said. That's misappropriation. That's theft. That's a long list of numbers after her name. I exhaled a laugh that wasn't funny. She wanted control so bad she prepaid the pain. Nora's eyes sparked. Or she knew someone would hurt her first. She closed the folder. Mr. Greer, tonight the board meets. We'll attend. You'll speak last. Bring your calm voice. A clock ticked a little louder. I pictured Karen's crown-shaped azaleas drooping in the heat. Pride wilts first. Truth stands longer. Nora stood, rolled her shoulders, and said, "Let's go home, then come back for the meeting." I nodded, feeling older, lighter, and sharpened by purpose. As we left, a text buzzed from an unknown number. "Call off your dogs, Greer, or your house sleeps in flames." Nora read the threat and turned granite. "We're tracing it." Maris squeezed my hand. "We'll sit up front." Evening poured honey orange across Willow Pines Estates. People carried lawn chairs to the clubhouse on Duclaw Drive like it was a parade. It wasn't. It was a court with folding seats. Inside, the air tasted like air freshener and fear. Karen sat beside Ephra at a long table, etchy banners arranged like respectable shields. Her smile looked painted on with a broom. She spoke first. "We're here to restore harmony." Nora stood. "We're here to restore the law." Murmurs rippled, then hushed. The projector showed my garage, the cut lock, Karen in the Jeep. Gasps floated up and popped like soap bubbles. Karen lifted a hand. "Context," she said. Nora nodded. "Sure." Next slide. The email to the counterfeiters. The room shifted. People pulled back as if she'd started coughing glass. Karen's voice thinned. "That account was hacked." Nora clicked again. The IP logs. The device ID from her home router. Ephra paled to library paper. Maris leaned forward. "We trusted you to water azaleas, not fires." Karen's eyes flicked to mine. No apology. Just blame searching for a host. Neighbors spoke. A woman named Vanna said Karen fined her for a birdbath. A man named Creed said his kid's tricycle violated colors. Petty cuts, 100 of them, bled together. Then Nora showed the check. $50,000. The room inhaled. Silence has many shapes. This one was a coffin. Karen tried a last stand. "I was protecting property values." Nora's voice softened, oddly kind. "You risked lives to polish numbers." She turned to me. "Mr. Greer, your statement." I stood, knees honest about their age. I spoke plainly. I warned her. She chose this. She also put a target on me. I told them about the threat text. Heads turned like sunflowers. Nora held up her phone. We traced it to a prepaid device bought by a man linked to the counterfeiters. They were tipped off and angry. "He's in custody now." He says, "The lady promised the Jeep." Ephra covered his mouth. A board member slipped off her necklace as if weight lived there. People began to see the ocean and not the beach. HOAs manage fences. They don't manage fate. We stood at a border none of us wanted to patrol. Then a woman at the back shouted, "Police are towing her car." Everyone turned toward the window, where red-blue lights painted the hedges. Karen's shoulders slumped, the crown of azaleas wilting in my mind's eye. Nora faced the board. "We recommend immediate removal of Ms. Karen Walcott from all positions, effective now." Ephra raised a trembling hand for a vote. Hands lifted, shaky but certain. Motion passed. Karen looked at me, a flinty smile ghosting her lips. "You think you've won, Greer?" I didn't answer. Nora did. He didn't need to win. He just needed to tell the truth. Then my phone buzzed again, this time with a photo of my porch, taken seconds ago. I showed Nora the photo. She signaled an agent by the door. "Go." 2 units peeled off toward my house. The room waited like a held breath. Karen watched me, hunting for fear in my eyes and finding caution instead. Caution wins slow battles. Slow wins last longer than fast. Nora said, "We'll keep the meeting going." We need a formal record. I nodded and stepped into the hallway with Maris. The clubhouse smelled like lemon cleaner and church basements. Maris whispered, "You think she has someone out there?" I shook my head. "I think she wants me to flinch." We walked back in, not flinching. Nora resumed, patient and relentless. "Ms. Walcott, did you instruct anyone to photograph Mr. Greer's home?" Karen's chin rose. "Public sidewalks are public." Nora leaned forward. "Did you send the text threatening arson?" Karen laughed, wrong sound, wrong room. "Allegedly," she said. The word rotted. I turned on my phone's recorder and stepped to the mic. "Karen, why did you cut my lock?" She met my eyes and made her final mistake. "Because you wouldn't obey." The room stilled. I repeated it. "Because I wouldn't obey?" She nodded, heat flushing her neck. "This community needs obedience." Nora wrote it down. "Thank you," she said to no one and everyone. The door opened. An agent whispered to Nora. She faced the room. "We found the photographer. A neighbor's teen. He says Ms. Walcott offered him $50 to spook the old man. He kept the cash. He also kept texts." Karen exhaled a brittle breath. Then she tried pity. "I have worked for this community without pay for 15 years. Maris stepped up, voice steady. "You taxed us with fear. That's not work. That's appetite." People nodded, something ungluing in the collective chest. The sound of relief is gentle thunder. Nora placed a printed document before Karen. "You're being cited for tampering with federal property, interference with an investigation, and criminal mischief. Civil penalties will attach. Restitution recommended, $50,000 minimum." Karen blinked. "Minimum?" Nora's mouth twitched. "Depends how many people you hurt on your way to tidy lawns." Karen looked smaller now, the chair bigger, the banners behind her heavier. She tried one more arrow. "This is a witch hunt." Nora actually smiled. "No hunts. Just facts." She turned to the board. "We'll need a formal acknowledgement of cooperation." Ephra nodded, stunned into usefulness. Maris slipped her hand into mine. "When this is over, you're coming to my place. I'll make Dad's skillet cornbread." My throat went tight. "You still have the skillet?" She grinned. "Grease never dies." We laughed, and I felt young and old and home at once. Nora's phone chimed. She read the screen, then looked at me. "Your porch is clear. But there's something else. The counterfeit ring boss just flipped. He has a message for you." My heart ticked louder. She handed me the phone. On the screen, "Tell Greer thanks. Her email led us right to their safer house." Nora explained in the hush that followed. Karen's messages to the ring weren't clever. They were breadcrumbs. We followed them to a safer house with plates, ink, and cash. We seized everything. The boss flipped to lower his time. "He wants you to know you helped, even by suffering." Karen stared at the table, iron finally cooling. The board signed the cooperation resolution with trembling pens. Nora set a schedule. "Ms. Walcott, you'll receive formal charges and court dates. Also, the civil penalty process begins now. Restitution set at $50,000, payable within 90 days. Karen whispered, "I can't pay that." Nora nodded. "Then you'll learn new words, liens, garnishment." Karen's eyes filled, not with understanding, but with outrage, unable to find purchase. The crowd didn't cheer. Real justice rarely throws confetti. It draws lines. It asks us to stand straighter. After the meeting, neighbors approached with casseroles of apology, awkward, warm, human. Vanna hugged me with the speed of a startled deer. Creed offered to fix the garage window. Ephra, pale but earnest, said, "We'll rewrite bylaws. With lawyers." I believed him. Nothing teaches like almost losing something you thought was safe. Maris drove me home under a sky the color of clean slate. Agents had left my porch brighter than they found it. The busted lock was gone. A new one hung there, thick, quiet, purposeful. Nora handed me the keys. "For now," she said. "Use it. But trust people sometimes too." Inside, the house steadied. Maris banged the skillet on the stove like a starting bell. Butter hissed. She poured batter that smelled like old church dinners and winter coats. We ate standing up, because some meals are about gravity, not manners. We talked about Dad, and wallpapers and forgiveness. Later, I walked to the garage. The rectangle sat empty, honest about its emptiness. I ran a finger along the dust and smiled. A space is not a loss. It's a promise in waiting. I locked the door without flinching. Locks are not fear. Locks are boundaries honoring what we love. A week passed. Karen resigned in a 3-sentence email, then paid the first chunk toward the $50,000. Word was she sold the crown-shaped azaleas and the extras in her life. Pride makes poor currency at the bank. The neighborhood softened. Kids' chalk lines appeared on sidewalks like new maps. Nora stopped by once more. "The case is closed enough," she said. "You did well, Mr. Greer." I shrugged. I stood still while the river moved. She nodded. "That's sometimes the bravest thing." She left a thin card on my table. "If you ever want to consult again, call." I took a slow breath and looked at my sister, who was wiping crumbs like a ritual. "You staying?" I asked. "I while," she said. "We can plant marigolds." We laughed at the smallness of it and the size. We both knew what it meant. That night, I sat on the porch in Willow Pines Estates, a quiet old man with a steady heart. I watched porch lights flicker on, one by one, as if the street were nodding off. I whispered into the soft dark, "You don't have to obey me. Just respect the lock." And somewhere down Hickory Vale Court, a crown of azaleas finally learned how to bow.